Imagine a river so central to civilization that its annual flood calendars governed kings and built empires. Imagine temples so precise they align with the stars, and pyramids once cloaked in polished limestone that flashed like beacons across the desert. Here, a temple was moved stone by stone to escape a rising lake, and beneath the Sphinx lies a carved cavity that still hides secrets. In the Red Sea, coral gardens host species found nowhere else, while the white desert's chalk mushrooms look like an alien landscape. Karnak's vast complex near Luxor contains one of the largest concentrations of religious art and architecture on Earth. Its great hypostyle hall alone covers more than 5,000 square meters and holds 134 towering columns carved with hymns. Centuries of pharaohs added pylons, obelisks, and chapels, each inscribing their names into stone to claim divine favor. The Avenue of Sphinxes once linked Karnak to Luxor Temple, forming a sacred processional route used during festival rites. Walking between the colossal statues, you can almost imagine priests carrying golden shrines beneath a canopy of painted ceilings. Many of those paintings depict celestial boats and stars, aligning temple rituals with the cycles of the Nile and the heavens. The precinct was more than a shrine. It was an administrative heart where priests controlled land, grain, and knowledge. Hidden rooms and carved reliefs record medical remedies, astronomical observations, and lists of offerings that shaped everyday life. Ramses II and Hatshepsut left obelisks that still pierce the sky, their hieroglyphs proclaiming victories and divine ancestry. Some blocks came from quarries hundreds of kilometers away, transported by river and manpower, in feats that defy modern imagination. Archaeologists continue to uncover layers, revealing that Karnak evolved like a living city over 16 dynasties. Underneath later pavements lie earlier temples and foundations, meaning each visit can be a step back through time. At dawn, the first light filters through the papyrus columns, casting patterns that once served as a calendar for priests. At sunset, the shadows elongate, and stories carved millennia ago seem to wake, inviting questions about rituals we no longer perform. Some corridors lead to surprisingly small chapels dedicated to lesser gods, reminding visitors that ancient religion had many voices. These intimate spaces contrast with the monumental facades and suggest personal devotion alongside state ceremony. Modern light and sound exhibitions attempt to recreate the processions and chants, though stone still speaks louder than any speaker. Even so, the best revelations come from silent observation and letting the scale of time sink in. If you wander from Karnak toward the Nile, the landscape shifts from sacred stone to fertile floodplain, where crops still follow ancient cycles. That continuity between temple, river, and people explains why Karnak endured as both spiritual center and living symbol of Egyptian identity. From that improbable island of life, the land rolls east toward the Nile floodplain, where the pyramids of Giza rise, their stone geometry interrupting the horizon with a deliberate human precision. The Great Pyramid alone was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 3,800 years. Its original polished limestone casing once reflecting sunlight like a beacon visible for miles. Aligned within a fraction of a degree to true north and built with blocks weighing up to 80 tons in the case of some casing stones, the pyramids whisper of engineering that still confounds modern calculators and cranes. Inside, narrow passages, the Grand Gallery, and the King's Chamber hide mysteries, including a recently detected void above the Queen's Chamber that reopened questions about purpose and design. Far from isolated, the pyramids connect to a network of mortuary temples, causeways, and the Sphinx, whose weathered face anchors a ritual landscape linked to river, sky, and afterlife. Stones quarried at Tura and Aswan were ferried along the Nile, turning the river into an artery of construction that tied the desert monuments to the living cities of Memphis and later Cairo. Archaeology at the nearby workers' village of Hayt el Ghurab overturned long-held myths, showing skilled laborers lived in organized towns with bakeries and medical care, not the image of nameless slaves. Walk from Giza, and the scene folds into Saqqara to the south, where Djoser's Step Pyramid announces the very idea of monumental stone tombs centuries earlier, revealing an architectural conversation across time. Every horizon line, every quarry scar and burial shaft is a sentence in a larger story about kingship, astronomy, and the Nile's role in turning desert into a kingdom. To stand beside the Great Pyramid is to feel both the scale of human ambition and the tightrope between fact and legend that keeps scientists and storytellers returning to measure, probe, and imagine. On the sun-baked cliff near the Nubian border, Abu Simbel's colossal facade looms with four-seated statues of Ramses II, each over 20 meters high, carved in the 13th century BCE as a statement of power and divine kingship. The complex once faced the Nile before the waters were tamed. Do you know that twice a year, sunlight penetrates the temple's inner sanctuary to illuminate the statues of the gods and the pharaoh himself? This solar alignment, engineered with astonishing precision, leaves the statue of Ptah shrouded in shadow, while Amun, Ra-Horakhti, and Ramses are lit in sequence. Visitors who stand inside on those dates witness a design calibrated to the solar calendar of an ancient empire, a reminder of how astronomy and rulership were intertwined. Yet the miracle of light is made even more miraculous by the modern feat that saved the site from flooding when the Aswan High Dam rose behind it. In the 1960s, UNESCO coordinated one of archaeology's greatest rescues, cutting the temple into over 1,000 blocks and moving it piece by piece to higher ground. Each stone was meticulously reassembled so that the temple's proportions and the solar phenomenon would remain intact in its new hill-like setting. Inside, the long hypostyle halls and richly painted reliefs tell stories of conquest, divine endorsement, and daily ritual, with scenes like the Battle of Kadesh carved in living detail. The inner sanctuary, with its four standing statues, feels less like a tomb and more like a calibrated machine of memory and propaganda. Beyond Ramses, a smaller adjacent temple honors Queen Nefertari, an unusual elevation of a queen to divine veneration, and a signal of personal devotion rendered in Simone. The reliefs here, and at the main temple record, exchanges with Nubia, showing the region's political and cultural networks stretching south along the Nile. Mount Sinai rises to 2,285 meters, crowned by jagged granite ridges that trap unexpected pockets of alpine life. Do you know Mount Sinai shelters ancient juniper thickets and rare high-altitude plants found nowhere else in the Sinai Peninsula? Pilgrims have climbed its stone switchbacks for millennia, following footsteps that blur history and myth. Beneath the summit, St. Catherine's Monastery keeps manuscripts and icons older than many nations, a living archive of faith. At dawn, the mountain transforms. A thin cloud bank becomes a sea of gold below, and the air tastes like winter. Bedouin guides still lead many visitors along the camel path and the steeper, star-marked steps known as Moses' Trail. The climb links desert villages to sanctuaries, tying the island-like peaks to daily life in the surrounding wadis. In narrow gullies carved by rare rains, tiny orchids and spiky herbs cling to life, surviving centuries of drought. Archaeologists say some of the terraced paths predate recorded history, implying trade and pilgrimage routes older than empires. Look closely, and you'll find rock inscriptions and crude shelters where travelers pause to mark celestial events. At the summit, the panorama collapses time. The Red Sea's blue curves, distant volcanic hills, and the ribbon of caravan tracks. Air thins and voices soften, as if the mountain insists on quieter conversations with its visitors. Locals tell stories of constellations mirroring the ridgelines, used to time harvests and festivals in ancient camps below. Modern climbers bring headlamps and sleeping bags, yet many still opt for the slow, reflective ascent by moonlight. Ras Muhammad shelters one of the world's rare meeting points, where the Gulf of Suez and Gulf of Aqaba exchange life. Its coral walls plunge into blue casteisms that attract migrants and resident species in equal measure. Beneath the surface, table corals and fan-shaped gardens drape ancient rock like underwater cathedrals. Schools of bannerfish, parrotfish, and shimmering jacks thread through tunnels carved by centuries of currents. In shallow lagoons, mangroves trap nutrients and incubate juvenile fish that will feed reefs far beyond. Salt flats nearby flash like silver mirrors at low tide, drawing migratory birds that few expect in desert climes. Divers still whisper about a freighter reef turned sanctuary, where coral has reclaimed rusted metal into new life. Deeper channels open to pelagic visitors, manta-like rays, groupers, and sometimes the ghostly silhouette of a hammerhead. From cliff tops, the park connects seamlessly to the Sinai Plateau, where wind-sculpted ridges frame the Red Sea. That land-to-sea link funnels sediments and seeds, knitting mountain runoff into reef nutrition with unexpected intimacy. Local Bedouin lore speaks of hidden coves used for centuries, and those coves now shelter rare nudibranches. Rangers patrol invisible boundaries to protect spawning grounds, ensuring newborn fish escape into the wider Red Sea highways. Coral gardens here act like crossroads, sending life toward Sharm el-Sheikh's reefs and onward to Tehran Island channels. When currents shift, whole ecosystems pulse. Sudden blooms of plankton feed whales of fish that surge like tides. Visiting Ras Muhammad is to witness layers of time stacked in living stone, each layer a survival story. By following the reef's flow, you can trace Egypt's marine heartbeat from sheltered lagoon to open blue expanse. Photographers chasing light find surreal contrasts where black basalt cliffs give way to neon reefs. Here, even a single dive can rewrite what you thought you knew about deserts and seas being separate worlds. The Red Sea coral reefs are one of the planet's rare reef systems that flourish in water far hotter and saltier than most corals can survive. Do you know the Red Sea coral reefs shelter an astonishing number of endemic species and coral formations that have persisted through millennia of climate change? Underwater canyons and reef walls here plunge like living tapestries, stitching together coastal towns from Ras Muhammad to Hurghada and beyond. These reefs form an underwater highway that has linked Nabatean sailors, Bedouin fishermen, and modern divers for centuries. Colors here seem exaggerated: electric blues, fiery oranges, and neon greens, but the real wonder is their resilience and unusual genetics. Scientists studying the Red Sea have found coral strains that resist bleaching at temperatures that devastate reefs elsewhere. This resilience is not just biological trivia. It offers a living laboratory for understanding how reefs might survive a warming world. Dive sites like Brothers Islands and the Yesu SS Thistlegorm wreck reveal bustling communities of parrotfish, groupers, and tiny jewel-like anemone fish. From shallow seagrass flats to deep fringing walls, the Red Sea's reef architecture supports fishing communities and the tourism economy along Egypt's coast. Local conservationists have mapped corridors where juvenile fish find shelter, showing how interconnected reefs around Sinai and the Eastern Desert truly are. But these corridors are fragile, threatened by coastal development, illegal fishing, and warming seas that test the limits of even resilient corals. Efforts in marine protected areas like Ras Muhammad and the Nabki Protectorate aim to preserve entire reef mosaics rather than isolated patches. Look closer, and you'll spot cryptic creatures, pygmy seahorses clinging to fans, camouflaged scorpionfish, and microscopic sponges coloring the reef. Every organism plays a role in this delicate balance that connects mangroves, reefs, and open sea along Egypt's Red Sea coastline. White Desert National Park contains vast chalk formations sculpted into mushroom, angel, and carriage shapes, a geological rarity found in only a few deserts worldwide. Do you know White Desert National Park can appear like snow under the sun? Its chalky pinnacles reflecting light so intensely they seem to glow from afar. By day, these alabaster sculptures reveal delicate erosion patterns, traces of wind, and the odd storm across millennia. By night, they become luminous silhouettes, turning simple camps into surreal, silent cathedrals beneath the stars. Located near the Farafra oases, the White Desert frames a contrast to the Black Desert's volcanic hills and the palm-filled oases of Bahariya. Traveling from green palms to white stone, visitors witness a sudden shift from productive life to sculpted, almost lunar emptiness. Scattered fossils and ancient marine deposits hint that this was once seabed, linking the park to Egypt's deep geological past. Bedouin guides fold these features into place names and stories, tying human memory to stone. Photographers and scientists arrive at dawn to capture long shadows and study wind-carved forms up close. Simple camps beneath the chalk reveal constellations blindingly clear, a reminder of how isolated these formations are from city lights. Names like the mushroom and the chicken make the rocks feel personal, each formation a locally recognized landmark. Just beyond the chalk fields, red sands and black mounds offer a natural sequel that explains why Egypt's deserts are mosaics of extremes. The White Desert is both fragile and timeless, urging visitors to tread lightly while witnessing a geological show few places can match. Next, we'll follow the caravan routes that connected these oases and learn how water shaped lives around these silent white stones. Listen closely, and you can hear wind stories recorded in grooves and hollows, an ancient language the rocks still speak. In the next segment, we'll move from these white cathedrals toward the waterholes that once sustained caravans and empires. Beneath waves of wind-sculpted chalk, Egypt's white desert preserves mushroom-shaped formations that exist in only a handful of places on Earth. Do you know the Great Sphinx of Giza sits on a shoreline of ancient limestone, carved from seabed rock that predates the dry Nile Valley? For millennia, its lion's body and human face have watched the sun roll over the Giza Plateau, a silent sentinel between desert and river. Buried to its shoulders for centuries, the Sphinx was only fully excavated in the 19th and 20th centuries, which helped preserve the face's fragile features. Its missing nose and painted surface are not mere ruins, but clues to a living past where colors, rituals, and repairs changed the monument's meaning. Fragments of its ceremonial beard now lie in museums, evidence that the Sphinx was once an adorned sacred statue rather than a bare relic. Between its outstretched paws sits the dream stele, a royal inscription that tells of a prince who dreamed of clearing the sand and being promised kingship. That stele ties the Sphinx to pharaonic politics and to rituals that linked rulers, celestial events, and the fertile Nile. Recent scientific surveys have revealed subtle cavities and erosion patterns under and around the Sphinx, igniting debates about the site's changing climate and hidden structures. Geologists and Egyptologists argue over wind and water erosion, and whether the stone records ancient floods that reshaped the plateau long before the pyramids rose. To stand by the Sphinx is to feel the weight of centuries pressing down, and to realize that every fissure, patch, and inscription is a story waiting to be read. Conservation efforts have become a tug-of-war between preserving ancient repairs and reversing 19th and 20th century restorations that used modern mortars. Each layer of conservation peels back another chapter of human intervention, revealing how the Sphinx has been loved, claimed, and contested across empires. At dawn, the Sphinx aligns with the lengthening shadows of the pyramids, casting a silhouette that Egyptians once read as a celestial sign. And at night, the desert wind carries salt and sand, erasing and redrawing the same face that generations have worshipped, mocked, and immortalized. The Nile River, stretching more than 6,650 kilometers, is the world's longest river and uniquely flows northward, carving an emerald ribbon through Sahara sands. Do you know the Nile River once sustained isolated fish and plant species found nowhere else? And that tiny pockets of that ancient biodiversity still survive around Aswan's cataracts. A Nile River cruise is less a journey than a moving museum, where each bend reveals sandstone temples, mud brick villages, and date palms that ancient pharaohs prized. From the towering columns of Karnak and Luxor to the painted tombs of the Valley of the Kings, the landscape stitches history to the water's edge. As the boat slips downstream, feluccas and fishermen become part of the panorama, and local markets on the banks invite you to taste sugarcane juice, pressed the same way for centuries. Between Luxor and Edfu, you'll pass islands where modern life lightly brushes relics of the New Kingdom, creating impossible overlaps of time. At Edfu, the Greco-Roman temple dedicated to Horus rises so intact that you feel its rituals could resume tomorrow. A short sail brings you to Calm Ombo, where a double temple honors two gods and offers a rare glimpse into how ancient Egyptians balanced dualities in stone. Further south, Aswan's granite quarries whisper the origin stories of obelisks, while Philai's island temple seems almost rescued from the river itself when the Aswan High Dam altered the Nile's flow. Navigating below the High Dam, you'll see how modern engineering and ancient engineering collided, reshaping both landscape and legend. Night on deck means stargazing with the Nile's gentle current as soundtrack, and guides will tell of celestial alignments that controlled temple foundations. Those alignments are not myth. Many temples were oriented to solar events, connecting river time to cosmic time, in a way few civilizations achieved. A cruise also opens lesser-known detours. Nubian villages of multicolored houses, archaeological digs where everyday objects reframe history, and quiet reaches where crocodiles once basked. Each stop links to the next, so a hieroglyph found at Calm Ombo can lead you to a stylistic match at a Luxor chapel, revealing conversations across centuries. By the time the cruise reaches Cairo's outskirts and the Mediterranean beyond, the river has stitched temples, bays, and living communities into a single living narrative. You leave the boat carrying a different map of Egypt, one drawn by water, sediment, and human hands rather than borders on paper. This is why a Nile cruise is both pilgrimage and a fieldwork, inviting travelers to read stories written in stone and water. Colored canyon in Egypt's Sinai, they read like geological watercolor over hundreds of millions of years. Do you know colored canyons' rusty reds, deep purples, and pastel yellows come from microscopic mineral fingerprints of iron, manganese, and copper, trapped in ancient sediments? Step into its twisting throat, and the world outside disappears, leaving only ribboned walls that tilt, fold, and glow as light crawls down the slot. Far from being a static painting, those walls are still being sculpted each year by rare flash floods that funnel through narrow mouths and polish every curve. Local guides will tell you the canyon hides tiny fossils and salt veins that hint at an ancient sea long before the Sinai rose. At certain angles, a single ray of sun ignites a wall into molten copper, and in the cool hour after dusk, the colors deepen into something almost unreal. This is not just a hike. It is a geological autobiography written in layers, each chapter revealing a different climate and cataclysm. Walk deeper, and you find passages so narrow, your shoulders trace the stone, connecting chambers that open unexpectedly into tiny light-struck amphitheaters. Fewer tourists know some corridors change color after rain, when damp rock reflects wavelengths unseen on the dry surface. Guides from nearby Bedouin communities still navigate these turns by memory, pointing out mineral streaks used for centuries as natural signposts. Along the Luxor stretch of the Nile, an almost unique perennial floodplain in the Sahara created fertile pockets that made the Valley of the Kings possible. Do you know that the Luxor floodplain's stable water table and arid winds helped preserve pigments and organic materials inside the royal tombs at the Valley of the Kings? Hidden in the ochre cliffs of the Theban hills, more than 60 royal tombs were carved with priestly geometry and painted with scenes meant to launch a king into eternity. Inside those passages, craftsmen chiseled corridors, staircases, and burial chambers that lead to stone sarcophagi, fitted like puzzles against the desert. The discovery of Tutankhamun's intact tomb in 1922 revealed not only gold and jewels, but a ritual world packed with objects meant to nourish the Ka, or soul. Even less famous tombs hold astronomical ceilings, spells from the Book of the Dead, and tiny votive models that speak of beliefs few modern visitors can imagine. From the valley, sightlines trace to mortuary temples like Hatshepsut's at Deir el-Bahari, and onward to the rising pylons of Karnak, linking burial, cult, and the living city of Thebes. This deliberate geography turned landscape into theology so that rivers, temples, and tombs together formed a circuit for rebirth. Conservationists now race to control humidity, salt crystallization, and the subtle encroachment of groundwater that threaten painted reliefs after millennia of stability. Visitors tread where priests and embalmers once worked, and each footstep is weighed against the need to study, protect, and sometimes close fragile chambers. From the slow, life-giving current of the Nile that turned deserts into fields, to the timeless geometry of the Giza pyramids that still baffles engineers, Egypt ties its past and present into one living story. From bustling Cairo markets, where spices and stories mingle, to the whispering tombs of Luxor and the Valley of the Kings, each place hands you a piece of history that refuses to be buried. Crossing from Luxor's sun-baked temples to Abu Simbel's relocated monuments, you feel the careful negotiation between heritage and human will. The Mediterranean breezes of Alexandria remind you that Egypt was long a bridge between worlds, while the Siwa oasis holds a silence that speaks of ancient oracle rites. Even Sinai's rugged peaks, where pilgrims found revelation, connect to the nation's layered identity of faith, survival, and pilgrimage. Markets, mosques, monasteries, and museums interlace with modern cafes and classrooms, proving that Egypt is not a relic, but a living archive in motion. What ties these places together is not only geography, but a continuous thread of human curiosity, engineering, devotion, and the relentless will to reshape the land. As you leave a sandstone temple or a coral reef, you carry with you the echoes of millennia and the new rhythms of a country reinventing itself every day. So stay with the questions this journey has raised, and let the images and stories of Egypt keep pushing you to return, to read more, and to witness the next chapter unfolding. Because in Egypt, every ending is also an invitation to explore further, to listen deeper, and to remember that history is never finished.